simply wish to make a healing request, please type into the chat room on wolfspiritradio.com with the name of the person, the location, and the condition that the person needs healing. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio. Welcome to Healings and Meditations with Frank Jordan, the Earth Mind Think Tank Group. And this is August the 30th, 2014. No more August now. We're into September. Hello, Frank. How are you?
Hello. Well, September on your side of the world. It's still August on our side for a while. Anyway, we're fine. We have a small group tonight, but as always, it's the core group, the primary people that help us to carry the energy forward. And we do have a couple of new members, too, I'll introduce, but I think they have not managed to get on. I dropped them into the group, but perhaps something has stopped them from coming on. It's Paula and Tira Okuma in Reno. Did you have an opportunity to talk to them, Joan?
Today, no, since I emailed them with all the information.
All right.
Times and whatnot, but I haven't talked to them today, no.
I dropped them into the group, so, well, if they show up, we'll introduce them and you can learn more about them. Okay, this is going to be an interesting day because we've been going through a transformation in the group and with the level of consciousness we're working in. And with that also, it's interesting that that merges right in with the new radio show that we're doing. It's called universalmindradio.com, where people can call in into the Wolf Spirit Radio and pick it up. Actually, we can pick it up directly, don't we, JP? If they just go to universalmindradio.com.
Yeah, what we'll do is... we'll have, it'll be available on the main player when we're simulcasting, which means that we pick up what you're playing and then replay that onto our stream. But all the rest of the time, you'll have your shows playing, well, whatever Gary wants. He's the DJ, so it's whatever he wants to play. And so we'll be able to link up at times. But if you wish, you were talking about using the same chat room as Wolf Spirit Radio, or did you want to have a different chat room?
Well, I don't know how it works. What would be the difference?
One, you would see us, or the rest of Wolf Spirit Radio, or you would only just see yourselves, you see?
Well, we're associated with Wolf Spirit Radio, and I'd like to continue with that. A lot of people are familiar with us there and look for us there.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Well, I'll give you the codes and I'll help Gary put that in. And you'll have the window. It's like a window into a world, and you'll have a window into the Wolf Spirit world there. A window into the Wolf Spirit world.
So would we be able to put the chat room, your chat room, on our page?
Yes.
So that it shares it with whoever's on over there?
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that would make a stronger side out of our side for sure. The other thing, we've been known as the Earth Mind Healing Group, Earth Mind Meditation Group. We decided to change it to the Earth Mind Healers Group, and I think you're labeling it as Frank Jordan and the Earth Mind Healers now, aren't you, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay, so no more think tank.
Call it. Well, I think we all kind of agreed. We had a little discussion, and we're thinking of getting rid of the Earth Mind Think Tank and substituting Earth Mind Healers for the Earth Mind Think Tank.
It certainly makes sense.
It might sound a little better.
We evolved into healers instead of just thinkers.
Right. In other words, we think we're healers.
There you go.
Therefore we are.
Right. Okay, well, let's just dive right into our discussion tonight then. This is the hour that precedes our healing hour, and we talk about different things in the group that might enhance our healing abilities or our psychic spiritual abilities or our consciousness growth or anything that might be of interest to anyone within the group, and certainly also within the chat rooms also. We're not limited just to ourselves. Anytime the chat room wants to pose questions and ask information, we have access to an incredible amount of information through this group and through the individuals. My personal source of information has been with me, oh golly, 30, almost 50 years now. From the time I came back from college, came back to the ranch and become a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year rancher. And that's all I thought I would ever be and all I would ever do. But the ranching I've realized is a lot like being in a monastery, because it's that's actually ritualistic, because you do the same thing in caring for animals and growing crops and very repetitive year after year after year. And so it becomes almost a way of going through the motions of production, and your mind can be somewhere else. Well, my mind was somewhere else, because the sheer boredom of it made me begin to reach out into my memory, into things I had studied in college, and things that interested me. And that prompted me to go down to the local county library, 50 miles away, and check out any books that were available on the subject that might be interesting me. And I'd never been exposed to anything having to do with metaphysics before that time. But I think I was a natural intuitive. I know I was, because my psychic ability was always there. And I always knew things but didn't know how I knew them. And riding that old horse and that tractor and just with my mind in an altered state, literally, like you get into when you drive a car, the running dialogue began in my head. And it was telling me information about things, anything that I put my mind on. And I thought I was just incredibly intelligent for thinking all of this good stuff. But when I'd go back to the library and look for confirmation, it would be right on. And so I began to listen more intently, realizing finally that I was being downloaded. And eventually it evolved to the point to where I wasn't just being downloaded. I saw myself visually, mentally, in front of groups of people talking about subjects, just as I've done in later years in teaching classes and things. Mostly things having to do with physics and metaphysics and spirituality and healing and things of that nature. So in that 10 years I was on the cattle ranch, I literally downloaded much of the information that I've worked with ever since. Because when I'd get in front of a group of people, and I'd never make notes or anything, or even really know what I was going to talk about, because if I did, it just blocked my flow. But if I had one line that I could concentrate on, which is the subject, mostly what the evening is going to be, whatever my opening line was, I'd open up with that, and this information that I had downloaded would just start coming through and resonating right out into the particular group and pertaining to the group needs of whatever those people needed and expected at that time. And I came to rely on that with the realization that it wasn't simply me talking. I was actually a live channel. This information was coming through intuitively, was right on the spot, and my psychic intuitive ability was picking up the group mind consciousness in the group, and I was responding to what they needed at any particular time. And it got to the point where I could look at someone in the audience even while I was talking, and information would come out directly to what that particular person had came to learn. And it became quite a game of being able to do this, of being in a room full of people. And particularly later on when I developed the understanding that I was a healer and could heal most things, it came down to the point where I could be in a room with 8 people, and by tuning into the individual who had requested healing, I could pull the energy, the group mind consciousness desire to heal from the rest of the group that was there, and it would greatly intensify the healing energy. It became quite traumatic in the things we could heal. Dramatic rather than traumatic. So that's been the evolutionary process, but I could never find a source for the information or an understanding of where it was coming from. And even though I read many books and from all kinds of authors and healers and teachers around the world, I was never really fulfilled or satisfied with, and I could never find anything that really equaled what I was getting intuitively, as far as accuracy and appropriateness and timing and everything. Well, since we've been on this radio program, that same thing is happening. In fact, I just kicked into it. You may have noticed the difference in my thinking and speech. I'm no longer trying to call things up from my memory. It's just expressing directly through me. And if I stop to think about what I'm saying, it shuts the flow off. So I just sit here and actually become a listener myself to what's happening. And this is when I'm bringing things back up from my memory of what I've downloaded. That's Francis speaking. He's the one that's the writer, the teacher, the lecturer that I depended on for so many years. But in the last 3 years, there's also been another force of consciousness that has been speaking through me that I call Stephen. And when Stephen kicks on, he brings in new information that is not in Francis's storehouse of information. And so this becomes interesting to Francis as well as Frank as we sit and listen to this conversation as it carries forward new and intuitive and appropriate information on virtually any subject that we need at that time. Another thing I've noticed about Stephen's dissertations is that they're very progressive. They build one on another in a sequential event, so that no matter what we learn one week or whenever we choose to come through, it'll be an additional follow-up on that particular subject or even a more extended information that people can download and use. And I've had the interesting experience just a few weeks ago, not too long ago now, that a little book appeared on my book stand right beside where I do my meditating, my recliner and whatnot. And it was called Embracing the Rainbow. And I'd never seen this book before, so I opened it up and started reading the first few pages out of curiosity. And I could have written this book. Even the language, the flow that comes through Stephen is virtually the same. Same ideas, same language structure, same verbiage, same sentence structure. And I became fascinated very quickly, realizing that I was reading from the source that I had been listening to possibly for the last 40 years. And it wasn't having to come through what I call my future self, because about 8 or 10 years ago, I become curious one night at 3 o'clock in the morning as I was listening to myself speak in my quiet time, in that altered state time between deep sleep and waking up was what I call the golden time, and that's when I would get a lot of downloaded information. And the information always came through and sounded like I was speaking again to a group of people. So at one point I became curious about that, and I asked, just who are you anyway? Who's doing this? And I heard a chuckle. It was my chuckle, of course. It said, look into your future. And it took me to a point out in the future where I was sending information back to me now through time and space so that it could exist in the future in the state that it had evolved to. And that's when I came to the self-realization that there is no time or space. With understanding how physics works and how reality works, and past, present, and future is all functioning at the same time, we are really creating our future with every choice we make in this reality. Is what we're programming and downloading into our inner soul, our indwelling soul, that we carried forward from lifetime to lifetime. That is also the information we have to work with in the future. And it's, even though it's all in this time and space. So that became quite fascinating to me. It wasn't too long after that where the voice changed and it became Stephen. And now I can, when Stephen's talking, I can tell the difference. I'm sure you can too, because it just becomes an informational flow that Frank or Francis don't even have to think about it. It just appears and flows along. So anyway, I got interested in this new little book, Embracing the Rainbow, and I read it through very thoroughly and could find nothing in that I didn't already know. And that I had programmed into myself at one time or another. It's a set of 3 books. The first one being Embracing the New Paradigm, or a handbook for the new paradigm is what it is. And this was channeled by George Green some years ago. And the second one in the series was Embracing the Rainbow. So, of course, I went to the computer and pulled up the first one, Handbook for the New Paradigm. And it's online. It's free. They want you to have this information because it was brought through into our consciousness, so that we could shift the paradigm. And the paradigm of the new reality that we're shifting into is what I have termed as being dominion in the last 3 years, and listening and figuring out how this all works and everything, and the fact that we were changing the consciousness of the world, and that this was greatly accelerated at the end of the age, the 26,000 year Mayan age. That's also the astrological beginning of new cycles and everything. And so the new paradigm, the new shift into dominion, there is beings that are helping us to bring that through. And the third book in this series is, and these are just small handbooks. They're pretty easy to download the information from. The third one is called Becoming, and the message contained in the third book is a continued realization of who and what each human being truly is. The consciousness-changing information of each volume contains and brings forth the understanding of humanity on this planet. It has really a holy awareness. And so I would recommend that anyone listening, that for their own growth and understanding, and to help the entire human consciousness shift into the new paradigm, that you get these little books or pull them up on your computer and read them. You can get them from Amazon too, and they're out there in the bookstores. George Green. In fact, there's a phone number you can call in Carson City, Nevada. The phone number is 1-800-729-4131. And it'll change your life, because it'll give you the explanation of what your life has been up to this point, and who you really are, and what you can expect to become in the future. And it does have a kind of a desperate message in it, because the indication is that if we don't shift out of the domination consciousness and into the dominion consciousness, that the dominators will destruct the world, destruct human civilization. And because it's a known fact that 5% of the human population of the world owns 95% of the resources. And this is known as the Cabal, the Illuminati. Various names have been attributed to it. It's been building the structure of control and domination for thousands of years. And right on back to when the Anunnaki created us originally to be laborers and servants to them, they very carefully withheld all information from us, any information that would make us smarter, so that we would come to the realization that we could be free will individuals, having the right and authority through the God flow to participate in life and creating life in a manner that we could enjoy and appreciate. And but we've been very carefully controlled, and it started way back when the 300 Anunnaki realized its population is growing beyond their immediate ability to control. That they created kingships with the demigods, the children of the gods, who had mated with human females, because we are made in the image of God, and that's exactly like so much of the biblical information is and was created for control of people's consciousness and thinking, and so that we would respect and honor the gods of all things. Because these are the gods I'm speaking of is not the supreme God. They are simply humans that came to Earth to mine gold and other resources, and so they can take it back to their own planets and continue their own way of life. That planet being Nibiru, which is said to be on its way on its 3,600-year cycle to visit us in the near future. And in its passages previously, it has brought a lot of destruction because it comes so close into our solar system that it really disrupts our weather and the geomagnetic structure of the poles, and creates the pole shifts and the floods and horrible volcanic activity and all kinds of things. So this is proven out in the geological history too, where they're seeing these cycles of every 3,600 years. There is an event that occurs in the historical records, and it's also in the written historical records also reference to it. The Anunnaki have been here for 430,000 years, and about 380,000 years ago, they created by altering the genes of Homo erectus, which was a primate on the plains, and adding some of the Anunnaki genes, human genes, to that. And there are 223 genes in our human systems that there is absolutely not found anywhere else on this planet. And the scientists cannot understand that, or really they keep away from it because they try to manage and control the information on that, so we won't realize that we were created in the image of the gods. And they also abused our potentials by dumbing down the laborers, which the original laborers were the Neanderthal man. And then they upgraded us at a later date and added more genes, and we became a separate flow, a separate species, and separate line. And they, about 36,000 years ago, they upgraded us again from Homo sapien to Homo sapien, which is even smarter yet. Now, during that period of time, a lot of this is in biblical history as well as other histories. What the expulsion from the Garden of Eden was all about was that in that first upgrade, they created more intelligent humans, and they were having difficulty controlling them. So they threw them all out of the Garden of Eden and forbid them to ever come back again. And so we had to go out and learn on our own, which we did. Then, being very intelligent and in a manner of controlling other creatures and beings, the Anunnaki created kingships with their demigod children as being the kings. That set up the lines of kingships in every evolving and emerging civilization. And that worked well, and within that also, they set up, they implanted the desire for gold, the fascination with gold in everyone. And this is the second smart thing they did, is they created the financial system rather than barter, and gold being the basis of that. And the interesting aspect of gold is through taxes and commerce, the gold always moved into a central location and ultimately to whoever was in power. And so this relieved the Anunnaki from having to actually mine the gold themselves, because what they did is put that fascination in humans, and humans would just accumulate it and use it for buy goods and things, and ultimately it'd work its way up to the higher levels of the dominating persons in whatever age that was in. And the Anunnaki, when they came by every 3,600 years, would simply collect it and take it back to Nibiru, which is, the gold is necessary for them, not because of the value it has in trade or anything, but because they ionize it and put it up in their atmosphere to create a greenhouse effect, so their planet is protected in the outer spaces as it goes around its orbit. So anyway, the other thing they created was the honor the gods thing, which ultimately evolved down into religions, and controlling the minds and thinking and thoughts of people through religion, so to hold down their self-will and destroy their ability to find self-realization. But anyway, what's happening now at this point in time, all those things are still functioning. The religions still function quite strongly and fighting with each other as much as anything else for control. And the financial structure is still functioning quite strongly. The governmental controls are still functioning in every evolved society around the earth. And but it's at this point in time, something has happened that we want to bring to your attention and awareness. It is our natural right as human beings to have free will, to be able to live and share and empower each other, and to nurture each other, and to share information, no matter what that information is, and technology, and to empower each other in a lateral way that prevents the structure of the pyramid of domination that has existed for 26,000 years. And this sharing of information is a natural function of the Homo erectus on the plains, and this also came down into our primitive societies and social structures that were not drawn into the domination control, and the primitive, all the primitive cultures, right up to the Indians on this continent, until the domination factors would come in and begin to control them in their tribal societies. They lived in dominion. They took care of each other. and this is what allowed them to exist and to survive and to grow and enjoy the reality of being human. But a great thing is happening right now. There's a shift occurring because in this new age, there is a flow of information coming from the galactic center of beings that have always been paying close attention to the evolution of human consciousness for many thousands of years in the past. Because even in the Middle Ages art, and many references in the Bible are there pertaining to the visitors from outer space, the gods from outer space. And so it isn't only the Anunnaki that have come and paid attention to us, it's other planetary species as well, because the humanoid species is pretty well scattered out through this entire galaxy. I've seen a figure of like there's 4,200 different planetary systems that, or societies of humans in various stages of evolution and growth, and many of them have the capability, since they've been around for several million years, they have the capability of going interplanetary. And those have been encouraging us by giving us information, leadership, guidance. But by universal law, no evolved species can directly interact or affect any evolving species. And this is so the God Force consciousness can evolve in all ways possible, and this is also to avoid the domination of more evolved technological beings from controlling or dominating. And our Homo erectus in another 500,000 years would have evolved into the more intelligent humans that we have now. But they were given a jump start by the Anunnaki, and that was not according to universal law. The Anunnaki brought incredible karma upon themselves by doing this, and that karma being the responsibility for teaching us in a manner that would, so that as we multiplied, we wouldn't be dominators of the earth. But they didn't, because they were dominators themselves. They created most of this domination that we see around in our societies now. And they took advantage of it, and they utilized it. Well, about 2,500 years ago, they drew the attention of the Intergalactic Council. And the Intergalactic Council told them in no uncertain way to get off of the Earth and let us evolve as we would have naturally anyway. Well, they did, to the degree that they couldn't direct the mining operation anymore, but they left in place behind them the financial system, the religions, and the educational system, to where we continued to produce gold for them anyway. And so, but they couldn't directly interfere with us. But that's only to a degree. There is a level of the Anunnaki that stayed behind, and that is the level of the demigods, the children of the Anunnaki. And the one thing about these guys is they do have extremely long life, but they stay hid out, and they are the heads of the cabals and the religions and the educational systems and financial system. Way back at the peak of the pyramid, there's a few of these beings that are still directing and holding everything in form. Now, I've known this. I've always known this. And when I wrote my novels, it was based around this inner knowing and information of how these societies and things really worked. The novels are available. It's Gods Would Be Men and Return of the Gods, and I've been working on a fourth one, which I'll complete in the near future, I hope. So anyway, all this information that I've known and intuitively was trying to write and tell people about, I found confirmation in these 3 little novels by George Green, because the ETs, we can call them, I call them the galactic beings, were communicating directly with him, and so that he could write these books and put this information out into the general public, so we would come into awareness of who we really are and how we came to be here, and come into the awareness that we do not have to be subjective to these domination forces. And when we become aware of this and internalize it in our own choices and what we do and how we act and react to the governmental edicts and began to realize how our fear of God in the religions was all a contrived thing, because we are God. We are expressions of God experiencing life as human. And when we come into this realization, and I've done this with hundreds of people, taking them directly away from the religions and steered them into the direct contact through their oversoul with the higher consciousness beings and levels of consciousness that is the God force, and it brings their personal power back. And that's what it's all about, is remembering that we have free will, we have personal power, we can create a reality, we are creating a reality that it's spontaneously and naturally happening. And you can see one aspect of it out there in the world right now, in the financial structure. The world financial structure is changing, and it's going through the throes of moving from domination, where 5% of the people in the world dominate 95% of the wealth in the world. This wealth is being redistributed and broken down. Those structures are breaking down. And so we're moving into dominion in that manner. But it's also happening in the religions. So many of the people are coming into self-realization and are moving around between the religions, trying to find an expression of something that satisfies them, and there is no finding full satisfaction. There's simply the state of consciousness of being submissive to the structures of the religion, no matter what religion it is. And fear of the religion, fear of death, fear of losing your soul, fear of the afterlife. That's all a bunch of nonsense. It is created and contrived to control people. But anyway, this self-realization that comes from reading these 3 little books and learning how to open up, as you've been doing, in working with the Earthmind think tank group and with me through these communication systems, the self-realization that we have incredible gifts and abilities and power that are ours by divine right. It is who we are. We can do incredible things with our minds. The healing, when that evolved through World Spirit Radio and Dave Crusoe, when that realization came about that we could reach out through the radios and heal people just as effective as we can if they're right in our presence. I'd been doing it for a long time over the phone, working with people anyway, but I hadn't realized we could come into direct resonance with mass consciousness out there. And when I discovered that simply by healing Dave's knees, the first radio show I had with him, and then having people call in before the end of the show saying that their knees had been healed also, that was where we broke it all open into the realization that, my golly, we're unlimited in our potential and power and what we can do. And all through this has been the growth and understanding and perception of what dominion is. Dominion, as we've been describing it, working with it, is simply that using our high self, recognizing that our high self which is from the heart up in our polarity system. The high self positive polarity, where the indwelling soul, which has had many incarnations and many experiences, has come in to experience this lifetime. When the indwelling soul came in, it actually comes into an animal consciousness, which is directed by the low soul. And the low soul, which can pass from one generation to the next through the genetic lines of people as they have children and move on. And that's a whole other story in itself, because we learned how to work with the low soul. And since it manages the physical reality, we learned how to go to the mental emotional cause of physical mental emotional causes or diseases, whatever they were, and clear those things through the clearing away techniques, so that our healings become not only permanent, but it brought the person into self-realization of how we function, how our biocomputers really work. And that's what you see in the second half of the show that we'll be doing tonight, is we'll be working directly with people, not simply just fixing them. That's not enough. For me, every healing has always been a spiritual experience for the people, where they're shown self-realization of what kind of power that we have. And I'm not talking about dominating power, I'm talking about dominion power, where we can send the resonance to anybody who experiences these healings. We can send the galactic flow that comes in through us, that even all we have to do is, because it so surrounds us, we're so immersed in the galactic flow of energy and this consciousness of the new world reality that is occurring here, that anyone who puts their attention on it and opens up can immediately begin to feel these energies flowing through us. And it's happening to me right now since I spoke of it. And if you'll open up, you'll feel a flow of energy coming in the back of your head, down into your body, and it's working through the 0 point in the spirit center in your heart. What we're doing is connecting directly into the God Force source energy, into the supreme energy, and our indwelling souls direct that into our systems. And you feel the polarity of it in your left hand is female polarity, resonating directly with earth mind, the Devic force of the consciousness. Your right hand is the positive polarity, resonating with high self, oversoul, highly evolved beings. And those two, in balance and harmony, directed through the desire of the indwelling soul, is what brings manifestation into being. And that's what a healing is. It's a remanifestation of the pure and perfect perfection that every person, through natural progression and growth of DNA, we have the right to experience not only the perfection of good health and longevity, extreme longevity, but we have the ability, tremendous psychic, spiritual abilities too, because of our intelligence, of how to use the subtle energy systems that support all things in reality. And that's where we're at right now. And so as we're talking about the galactic center flowing through us, and the fact that it is here, really all you have to do is download this into you. Feel the resonance coming through the group energy now, the people who are with me in the Earth Mind Healers, we call them. We did call them the Earth Mind Think Tank group, because we've been working with healing the Earth energies and for about 2.5 years now. Just feel the consciousness, the resonance, the energy that this group is generating and sending out through the airways to you. Anyone listening, anyone who is willing to look at their own inner consciousness and who they really are, and to accept the gifts and abilities that are theirs by divine right, anyone that accepts this also accepts that shift of consciousness that releases the domination force. Because this is pure dominion, given freely and unconditional love. Unconditional love is what we call this flow coming through us, because it's given with no expectation of return. It's this flow, this energy, this intelligence, this consciousness that's coming from the ETs, the galactics, that direct this energy through us, is given to us, and this energy flow contains all the frequencies of energy, of manifestation that hold everything in form. So literally, we can use these energies as we learn how to do it, and can construct the vision of it in our minds well enough. We can manifest virtually anything. And because what we're feeling is an expression, an extension of the God Force consciousness within ourselves, in the 0 points of our heart, that holds everything in form. And you've heard me talk many times about this, so we won't get into it. But what I'm bringing to you now is the realization, and we've been experimenting with this in our group, that not only can we bring through the incredible healing energy, manifesting energy to change your lives, but we can change our reality as well. And the upshot of that is we're helping to shift the consciousness of every human on Earth from the three-dimensional length, width, and height, the three-dimensional reality, into the fourth dimension, which adds the dimension of time and space. And that time and space being having the ability to go, not be limited to the physical reality, but can go extra physical. And that's just what we're doing when we're reaching out and touching you, is we're working in the fourth dimension. Everyone has this capacity. Every living being that has DNA has the potential of far greater experientiality, gift abilities, the right and the obligation to experience life in joy and happiness and fulfillment and abundance, and to no longer give our power away to the domination force and to those levels of consciousness that actually dictate everything you do. Because in Dominion, we will still have can have the same functional societies, but it'll be done in a different way. Instead of having a governmental organization that dictates to us, even though we've elected them to represent us and take care of us, they promptly become one with the dominators and bestow their energies in with the dominators and use it to limit and control everything we do. There's a lot of good websites opening up now that has the realization of what's happening. And in the governmental side, groups of people have come together to bring the Republic back, which is simply the expression of how our forefathers that created the original Constitution, Bill of Rights and everything, how they intended for it to work. But it was immediately subverted, right down even to the Federal Reserve System, to being controlled by dominators, primarily because few of us realize that the Federal Reserve System was created and owned by European money people. And that is to the extent that by putting us deeply in debt to the system, we became slaves to the system. So that is all being eliminated very soon. And there'll be tremendous wealth and availability to everyone, so we can share and experience everything in the physical world laterally. And if we have excess, too much, whatever we're doing productively, if we create more than our needs, we share it with others. We give the money. If we accumulate more money than our needs, we just give it back into the system for distribution to those who are somehow contributing to the economy and to the social structure to make everything work. And that it can work. It's being worked out right now. And these little books I'm talking about, Embracing the Rainbow, let me get them right here again. Handbook for the New Paradigm, and Becoming are directly channeled from the ETs telling us how to do this, giving you the assurance and direction that I've been bringing through for many, many years now and trying to express. But now I have validation and a source and self-realization that I've been right on all the time. And this is the gift that is coming to you now, is the gift of self-realization, that you are so much more than you realize, and that instead of looking to outside of yourself for your spirituality, or to be cared for by the government, and being on the dole, or expecting an outside God to care for you, that you have it all within, and your own personal power, and your own right and authority to be co-creators with God. And that's the base information that I'm bringing through. And I'd like to have some expressions from some of the group now in our Earth Mind Healer group. How do you see what's happening, and how is it affecting you?
Well, Frank, I'll jump in on the George Green book for a brief second. What I find really quite simple and quite astonishing at the same time is his point is a very simple one, that resistance is really futile against the opposition forces, and suggests that it's a matter of just using the subtle energy mechanisms to create a brand new reality. That's the crux of his books.
That's exactly right. You can't win face on or challenging. The only way you can win is to change the consciousness of the people so they simply don't support the system anymore.
Right.
And that's the way it is working.
Well, that's what I say, that instead of going in the front door, you go in the back door. You slide in through the mail slot.
And you build a new door going.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great description. Now I don't have to read the books. That is great.
You better read the book.
But it's quite interesting material as you go through the book, because you'll just read a section and you go, oh my gosh, I know,
Yeah.
I know that, and it is so clear, so fascinating, but it really, and just really gels it together very nicely. And I remember reading some of the books several years ago and actually putting them aside and actually having it been reintroduced through Frank this time, and just kind of, oh my gosh, it's so great to read these again. Because
it is interesting, definitely.
Yeah, but we all already knew that the subtle energy fields and those realms are where things happen. We know that's where creation is, and, we have to be reminded and express that out to a broader group so that they actually can take ownership for it. And of course, the other part of that is actually taking responsibility for ourselves to do that. And, if you look around at our societies and the governments and those of the world, you'll actually get a sense that the noose is tightening, because they are using those mechanisms to destroy the ability to be in charge and to use free will and to express powerfully of those natures through government, religion, and all the other associations and groups. So you can see the process underway clearly if you look.
Very much so. It's, when you said the word subtle energy, it made me think love is a subtle energy, because how do you describe love? You don't. You just feel it. It's just there. And that's how they've used it against, is by trying to tell you what it is and how it's supposed to be when it cannot be. It just is.
Yeah. Yes.
Subtle energy is the life force that sustains all things. It's the consciousness that uses the sun's energy, which is matter unorganized, and through the subtle energy system, working with our indwelling soul and our consciousness and our awareness and the DNA, it organizes the subtle energy into form. And the miraculous thing is the incredible biological forms that arise from basically the same DNA that every creature has, every living thing, and yet the diversity and the spontaneity that it creates and maintains life arises from the subtle energy field of God force consciousness. And so when we accept and acknowledge that and learn how to step into that field ourselves and feel the resonance and the energy and direct it with our minds, we become co-creators with God in manifestation, creating new social reality, physical reality, spiritual reality, emotional reality, a whole new paradigm. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Time for a tune, eh?
Well, we're all waiting for inspiration from the subtle energy field at the moment.
Or JP, whichever's first.
JP's in a unique position because with all the hosts of the various shows, he gets to hear so much different perspectives coming from all directions. And it's all settling out within your own system, JP, and I'd like for you to describe in one line, one sentence, what life is.
A process of evolution, a process of growth. That's obviously I was talking about it before. I'm sorry, there's more than one line, but something that eats and something that poos is alive, basically. You know, if it breathes in and breathes out, it eats and it poos. That's alive.
It's becoming.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it would help all of us if you could do that in one line.
A process.
Experience.
God is a process. Life is a process. There you go.
Yeah.
And I think it can all be stated in one beautiful thing, one word, not one line, and that's becoming.
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm overdriving it on this end. It's one channel out of several, so I'll have to balance that out. We'll do a test, if you like, Gary, and we can get that balanced nicely. You can use your ears for that. So, if anybody would like to have a healing, come into the chat room, and please give us the name, the location, and the condition that the person has. So, you know, like I was in JP, age in Scotland, and I suffer from baldness. Actually, I don't suffer from. I quite enjoy something. I don't suffer from insanity. Anyway, so there we go. We got some coming in. Frank, where do you want to start?
All right, we have a request from Free Sovereign, and it's so appropriate that this came in at exactly this moment, because it's a healing request for Bill Brock Brader and Eva Moore. Bill has been fighting a war with the U.S. government and the federal system and the laws, and simply because while he was still involved in the military, he called their attention to himself and resisted by directly confrontation and with the system, and once he got embroiled in it, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse, to the fact that he got thrown back in jail again, and is due to be released very shortly, apparently. And I met Bill when he was out before they threw him back in again, and Eva Moore, and in fact, Eva is the person that invited me to be on her show with Dave Crusoe that got me into the system. But I even went to California to a meeting of that was inspired by the groups in resistance to the U.S. military and their mind control techniques and all of that. And I came away with the horrible realization is that you cannot defeat these people head on. You cannot expect to defeat them using their laws against them, because they simply change the law or reinterpret it to where you cannot compete with them. And this is one of the things that brought me to the realization that mind control is so strong out there, and in the opposition force, we'll call it that, the controller-dominator force, that once you're into this system, anything you do to call their attention simply brings this force down harder on you, to the degree you cannot have a life, a social life, a functional life, can't even think properly and straight. And so I pulled out of it, pulled away from it, and just did cross fingers and the X signs to block those energies, and I have refused to participate in anything to do with that, because as long as they're in the tar pit, anyone who reaches down and touches their hand is going to get tar on them too, and worse, if you do anything to call the controllers or pull the controller energy against you, and it is a mindless force that's out there, the domination force, and it has incredible power that they can direct with intent, and just as we are creating a force of benign allowance that allows it to exist in its own way and live out its own time without giving them energy to reinforce and strengthen them, by pulling the energy away from anything that supports them, or even acknowledgement or realization that they exist. That gives them energy. Anytime they get you to respond to them or rise up in battle, they've got you. They suck you in and take you down. And so what I've learned, and particularly was reinforced with George Green's work, is you just don't play their game. If they're going to throw you in jail for something, some perceived thing you've done against the system or against society, then just serve your time, get out, and don't look back. Because if you throw any more energy at them, they'll just suck you in again. And it's a sad thing to say, and I really feel sorry for Bill and Eva, and the fact that this force has just torn them apart for years here, and it shows I've seen nothing to indicate that they've won any of the battles in the courts or anything with them. It just gets worse the more they fight against it. And so the only way to win is to take all support away from that resistance. It's almost like the I think it's the Japanese or Chinese system of becoming the blade of grass. If you stand up and resist the wind, it'll break you off. If you bend with the wind and let it flow on by you, it expresses its force and it's gone. And even though we have a healing request for them, I can't touch them anymore. I cannot send any energy to support for them in any way. When they step out and get clear of that energy, then I'd be delighted to help them clear themselves of all the forces that control them. But until they're still in the system and still feeling like they can win, I can't help them, and I don't recommend that anyone else do, because if you pull that force against you, it'll simply take you down. If you refuse to give it any recognition or energy, and enough people did that, it would just quietly go away. I know I'm rubbing a lot of backs the wrong way on people here by saying that, but this is a new self-realization of the new paradigm. Is the only way you can defeat those powers that be is simply not support them, and certainly not give them any energy or anything they can bring back and use against you. And we have to be very careful not to have the appearance of opposing them anyway. They are simply working their way through what apparently they came in to do or be, and I don't even know how to express it. It's just a feeling of intent. You don't pet a cobra. Does anyone have any ideas about this?
Frank, this is Susan. I have to agree with you because, we've known you for, when we know where you're coming from with that, with Bill and Eva. And Glenn and I, we quote unquote fought the system. We never won. Because Glenn's attitude was fight. Mine was let it go. And that's why, we got in, I've already gone through all that. We cannot, and I had a policeman, umpteen time after I got pulled over for this, that, and the other stupid stuff. Because I didn't want to have a driver's license, because I wasn't a citizen, I was a sovereign, and so they get, they target us because they go, hey, we can pick them up because they aren't have a driver's license, and we can pull them in and we can fine them and all this other crap. And I had one policeman ask me, he said, is it really worth this? And at some point it wasn't. So we got our driver's license and we quietly went back in it and went back, doing our thing and just leave and created a bubble around ourselves. You leave us alone, we'll leave you alone, and we're not even going down that path anymore. And this is Eva and Bill's path. Only thing anybody can do is send them love, but we can't do anything more than that. And and Frank, I was one of the original groups. We were in the original group with Frank, and for the longest time, he kept himself, what we were doing with Earth Mind Think Tank when we first came up with it, he separated himself. I mean, it's only been recently that Frank has allowed himself to even think of and even say the word republic and sovereign, because he kept himself so apart from that, because he saw firsthand what was going on. So I support what he's saying 100%.
You could almost call it passive resistance.
Yes.
By not acknowledging their existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add a few comments if I could. There was a point where I was attacking in the form of, looking at going out and filing lawsuits and stuff. And that's when I was starting to get sick, and and Frank counseled me, and also just, seeing the way things are going with my health, that I just had to back off and not attack. Now, that's the passive aggressive is a good term, because I think you can when we know we're in the right, we're working on sending our energy to create a new system, but I think it is possible to just passively defend by asserting the position that we're free men and women here, and we don't recognize your right to attack us. So we're not interested in interacting with you. Bye bye. And that I think that they, on some level, there's been enough. The politics of it, if you will, have changed, and the number of people that are aware, so that they can't as easily just come and railroad over people who really haven't done anything wrong. See, there's been I notice a change now that you can see it even seeping up in the mainstream media about all the misconduct at IRS and all these other things that are just as they say, the dead bodies are popping up all over the place. So yeah, I think as long as you don't, I understand the feelings about wanting to assert, your freedom and independence and all this and that, but I always thought, I don't have time to be getting stopped by cops and having to defend, all the legal action that would be required to do that, and maybe get beat up by cops for a few times and thrown in jail, just because I don't want to have a driver's license. Definitely not worth it.
Yeah,
let's worry about the Federal Reserve System first.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, we could, it would be, I'm not saying easy, but I'll say simple. It would be very simple, if there were, like a nationwide general strike, or even large regional, we're just, if everybody decided that we're, nobody's going to go to an NFL football game this coming weekend, what do you think would happen? What kind of ripple would that send through the system? We're not going to movies. This is a tall one, but we're not going to buy your beer. How
about not starting eating burgers? Just come away from burgers and hot dogs and all these things that are part of the death industry, which is the military industrial complex.
That would have I think a dramatic, tangible impact in a relatively short period of time.
How about not
boycotts are having an effect around the world.
What do you got, Frank?
McDonald's, and then they kicked McDonald's out of the country.
What if no one paid taxes? If no one paid taxes, what would happen to the federal government?
Yes, that's right, and that's happening actually, because there is
that's all fighting. You guys are talking about conducting a war against the cabal.
No, we're not cooperating.
About not doing that.
It's non-cooperation. There is no law that requires filing of an income tax return, so you just don't.
I've never filed one.
So you're fine. We're not talking about going out and the guys that are actually in jail that have a real tough time, or this people like Irwin Schiff. It's a little before my time, but Irwin was like getting on national TV and running ads about how how to destroy the system. I think how well is that going to work? And he puts up giant billboards in L.A. People that go out and that are trying to teach on a large scale, I say, in a very public way. That's what you don't want to do. But as the passive resistance or just non-cooperation. It's kind of like Gandhi.
That was about to be my next statement. Yeah, it really is essentially that.
Hey, you guys, I don't think any of this was what we were supposed to be involved with anyway. The whole premise of what we're doing in our meditation is to raise the consciousness of the world, not pick some little battle over IRS or some stupid thing like that. We have to raise the consciousness of the world before we can change any of this stuff. So to pick a fight with the military is really ludicrous as far as I'm concerned. I think we need to go back to our original intent, like Frank was saying. Let's just focus on using our power and let all this other stuff sort itself out.
Yeah, when the tax bill comes, pay the tax bill. so you don't get thrown out of your house taken away from you. That's
it's kind of hard for you to meditate in our grip if you're in jail for not paying taxes.
Yeah, let's just stay in the subtle realms.
Yeah, so
Yeah, subtle.
vibration up and forget about all this other crap, and let's
Exactly.
just focus in on getting
Focus
into
on the new
light.
paradigm.
Well,
Focus
the
on
other
what-
way of doing that is
what
you
we're
focus on
creating,
the paradigm.
not what we're trying to destroy. The thing that was being destroyed is going to destroy itself. Evil destroys itself. You don't have to fight it. If you do it a favor of fighting it, you play right into their hand. They've got all the guns, they got all the manpower, they got all the weapons, and all the stooges that will go out there and shoot you in the head just because they like pulling the trigger. You know? So what? You guys want to go and fight them? Go ahead, but I won't be there with you. I'm busy. I'm already busy on something even better than that.
I'm building the new
creating
paradigm.
the new world, right? You, like all those other guys, like like Frank. You know, creating the new world. The new world doesn't even exist yet. It's all in the hearts and minds of certain people on this planet, and they're trying to make it happen. As far as the sovereignty thing goes, there's a sovereign movement and a movement to restore the republic. Is all they need to do is just keep putting out the information and spreading the truth, and that is what will destroy the evil. The evil cannot sustain itself once the light is shining into it. So we don't have to fight evil. We don't have to. You brand evil and expose evil whenever you see it, but you don't fight it. Just the light on, turning the light on it is what's going to turn it off. That's why they work in the dark. That's where the only place they got power. So you get the lights in there, they're screwed. So we don't have to fight them.
It was like you said, the truth is the light.
Exactly. The truth is what's going to set you free, not just some scheme or reaction due to self-importance
And there's nothing
against something that you think is oppressing you. You got to play to win. Don't be a loser. Yeah, I've been in jail. I know how to work the cops. I know how to work the jailers, all those guys. You can take over the prison by just being friendly with everybody. Because everybody else in there hates everybody, and they're all at war with each other. I go in there and I'm big buddies with all of the black people, the Mexicans, everybody. I treat them, they're equal. Next thing you know, I take over the prison because everybody loves me.
Mm-hmm.
I've proved that to myself at least a long time ago. End of rant.
Right.
So should we go ahead and work on some healings?
We can do that. As long as the message has been delivered and received, and a new perspective is rising in everyone's minds, that the realization that domination always self-destructs. It always has and always will, because it's not a natural function of the evolution of life. And so, with that said, we simply look at it like we would look at a mad dog and don't get in position where it can bite me. And pretty soon the mad dog dies because it destroys itself from within. Enough said?
Yes.
All right, let's see what we've got to do tonight.
Meanwhile, back in Healerland, anyway, so very good there. So let's look at there's Greenheart. Chris from Moncton, Vermont. Frank, I'm with a Scotsman who's an artist. Now, we are painting his 200-year-old house in Vergennes, and there is a wasp nest and a hornet's nest that might give us a problem. Also, we are painting a friend's house in Adamman named Cynthia. He's the painter, and Cynthia removed the nest with a power washer, but still many wasps. Oh, that's a good idea, yeah. Would you please help us? Thank you.
Oh, I just give you some advice. Stand way stand way back. These things have a life force and a right to exist also. And the life force that they create, that they can generate, is very powerful because they're self-protective and they've claimed the space. And
they work in number.
They certainly do. And they all think like one, which is protect the hive. And so I have seen instances where you could simply, where people fight them, they simply draws in more, brings them in. People who love them and respect them, allows them to live out their life cycle. If you love them with the intent, send them the message, the passage in your mental creation that there's a better place for them, that they're actually disrupting you. And that message, they pick up and understand that it may not be the best place to be because we're actually creating an opposition in the neighborhood here. Let's go find a place where, as they continue to spread out and raise more nests. So send them love, send them the mental image that they could be happier somewhere else, and certainly give them their space. If you're going to have to paint around them, paint at night after they all pull back in and won't be protecting the nest. There's ways of dealing with life. I used to, as a rancher, I knew how to destroy absolutely everything that was a threat to my production or my animals or myself. And since I've had a shift of consciousness and can look out of these creatures' eyes and think with their consciousness, I realize that you can come to a compatible way that's beneficial to both of you if you will simply take the time to do it.
And if you talk to the wasps, tell them, explain to them that, this is your place, this is where you live, and those guys, if you could move your stuff out of here, this is my space, this is our place, you guys are in my place. I'm not in your place, you're in my place. And have plenty of vinegar on hand in case they actually sting you. That'll take away the pain. I was living in this place and I had this old car that wasn't moving, it was just sitting in my yard, and these hornets started building a nest going the crack by the door, and they built their little nest inside the door thing. And I noticed them there, but I didn't do nothing. I was walked right by them and they never bothered me once. And all the time, that was like maybe a year or so that they were there. And then when we sold the house or something, they had to bring in some one of these guys that kills everything. And he was in there and he started shooting a big stream, about 20-foot long stream of stuff at him to kill him or whatever. And about 2 minutes later, he got stung. But they never bothered me or anybody else. So there you go. Be nice to the wasps. And the hornets, they look pretty bad, but they're cool.
Okay.
Cindy, Milwaukee, pinch nerve in lower right lower backstroke leg. What's that? That's male.
Well, that sounds like a sciatica thing.
Yeah.
Which is a compressed disc. Okay. Cindy, in our group mind consciousness, everyone pull your awareness now away from all these domination things and wasp wars and all of that. Pull together now, bring our group mind together with the intent to do a beneficial thing and feel the flow come and soothe the back of your head and neck now and down, and the flow coming out of your hands. This is the galactic energy. Because really what we're sending to Cindy is unconditional love, and we're directing it with our minds, and putting one hand, left hand on the front of her body, the right hand right on the spot where that compression of that disc is happening. It's pinching the nerve. And we're saying it through the power of the Christ within us. We see this disc in the perfect and normal condition. And what we're visualizing is a whirling green, emerald green energy that actually, I realize, comes right out of this love force. Because green is the heart chakra color, and that energy is coming right into her back now. And we want to have her straighten her back a little bit to get that curvature out. Give the disc a chance to expand and fill up. And we see the nerve being relieved. We send an energy flow down the nerve of unconditional love also. I like the blue energy on that one, on nerves. So to release the spasm that's causing the pain in the lower back leg. Through the power of the Christ within us, we see Cindy's vertebrae in the perfect and normal condition. Now twirling counterclockwise. And when you see the energy stabilize, you reverse the flow around the outside. That we send a flow of positive polarity energy. That positive polarity working with the negative polarity of the green color manifests the new disc and holds it in form. That the positive polarity literally is the intent of the Oversoul. And we're working with her Oversoul to do this, to bring perfection back into the body. And what's amazing about this is I've had people come in that hardly could get on my massage table where I do healings. They'd be hurting so bad, and within 5 or 10 minutes, the pain would all go away, and they could stand up and walk around, lean over, and even touch the floor without any pain whatsoever. And that's what is happening to Cindy right now. And you can do this with anything else in the body. Okay, we released Cindy. See, it isn't necessarily any mental emotional thing. Things just happen mechanically in the body. The human body was never made to walk upright many hundreds of thousands of years ago anyway.
I'm getting Cindy's hunching over the keyboard, and there's downward. That's what I'm feeling. There's this kind of curving up and down. It's like over an arch. Energy that is moving through her, and she's like hammering down on the keyboard. And I think that's putting a strain in the back. I don't know if I'm right, but that's just what I'm feeling. It's very intense. Pushing down kind of energy on the keyboard.
If we're looking at the mental emotional cause of things like this, quite often it's financial stress. Puts that stress is carried in the lower back, and that can cause the muscle spasms that compress the vertebrae and cause the pain also. But I don't feel like that was happening in her case. Okay.
Okay, so we've got Teresa Boas from Staten in Oregon, who has a brain infection. It's an unusual thing, isn't it, to have a brain infection? What would cause that?
Sometimes it can come from a latent injury or some bacteria that attacks the nervous system. Something that where her own normal endocrine system is compromised. And since this is coming from Catherine, and Catherine knows this person, Catherine, we're going to send you the energy now and let you direct this healing.
Okay.
The visualization I have is our hands are on each side of her head, and we feel the flow of unconditional love coming down through her hands. And Catherine, you probably feel this in yourself, but with your attention on Teresa, that's where the energy will go. So you go ahead and direct it now.
It's like she's fighting me on not letting it in. There she goes.
Yeah, I had the thought, look behind to why she's allowing this to happen in her system. The instant I did that, it broke.
So is this an emotional thought form that's creating that? What is it?
Well, it broke down her natural resistance there. Can be, we can carry a lot of stress in our brains as well as our bodies. Stress of unresolved things. Now my hands are getting incredibly hot, so we don't always have to identify. We just simply have to find a general focus of why this is happening. And this is the value and the beauty of the galactic energy, is it knows what to do. We simply have to put our intent with it. But as soon as we step back into her mental emotional cause, then it began to happen. I'm getting the impression almost like it's in the cerebral spinal fluid.
That would be like in the very middle, the center, correct?
No, it's around the outside. It's the
outside of the brain. Okay.
Well, it's all through the brain.
Is there a foreign body in it? It feels like, there's something that has invaded, like something that had been darted in or fired in or something. Like you're right, it's floating around in the juice.
Yeah. She was at the state fair when this, she ended up going to the hospital from the state fair.
That could be something like meningitis that she picked up. And that comes pretty fast.
When we first started with her, my immediate thought with the brain was, this is Susan, was meningitis. When you were talking an infection, and going, yeah, because it doesn't take much. You can get that, and it just zips right in.
Yeah.
And it happens very fast.
Through the power of the Christ within us, we see Teresa's system stimulating the antibodies necessary to resist this infection. We know the hospital is also giving her antibiotics and things to combat the infection. So we put our energy in those antibiotics and empower them to find absolutely every organism in the body. Since this is an invasive organism, it has no right or permission to be here. We give it no leeway whatsoever for life. Since we have the right information, anything that is that threatens our life, we have the right to resist or eliminate it. It's not something we have to be sympathetic of like we were with the wasps. So we see this incredible energy now around her head and flowing down her spine all the way to the base of the spine, totally eliminating, neutralizing, healing. And we inspire they actually, it looks to me like they're putting antibiotics directly into her cerebral spinal fluid and injecting the antibiotics directly in, so we empower those to work and to seek out every molecule of this invading infection.
Frank, can you do the Book of the Dead for those organisms?
A wonderful idea. And let's do it by simply giving them a tone, Rachel, that will carry them into their own right and proper morphogenic field.
Okay.
Man, was that high energy.
Perfect.
That was like a magnet.
My gosh, that was right on.
One of the ways I used to fight infection is to pick up the frequency of the invading organism and do just what she did, and I do it silently, is to raise the frequency of the organism so it literally self-destructed, or it mutated into an organism that was not detrimental to the person. Okay. All right. Feels like we were successful with that one. You close. Let us know, Teresa, or Catherine, what happens.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, so we have, this is from Sanita. So, this is Agneta Zidrina, current location Cancun in Mexico. She's age 25. She's on and off stomach pain for several weeks.
Okay, this could be any one of many causative things, such as a hiatal hernia, bacterial infection, even liver, gallbladder problems. So we're just tuning into her now. I'm actually seeing the possibility even of bacteria that causes ulcers. So we're just, I don't think it's a hiatal hernia. but I'm going to tighten up that sensor valve just in case. So here again, if it is the ulcer causing bacteria, we wrap the lining of her stomach now in a force that resists and eliminates, causes her to expel those bacteria. The power that Christ within us. We see Agneta in the perfect and normal condition. I had a hernia healing also, because it felt like it. That close. Wrap that whole stomach in a field of energy that will continue healing now. Okay, close. Okay, I see a note from Joan saying, always be prepared. That's a wonderful suggestion, Joan, if you've got a clue what to be prepared for.
Jerry and his story about the wasps and bees and carrying the vinegar with him, and just in case he got stung.
Okay, good idea. All right, Douglas Harold Dietrich, the fourth, Virginia, Blacksburg, heart chakra, find top problem.
I think, it's hard to get exactly what he means by find top. Do you get that?
We'll have to tune into him. Let's, first of all, be careful now to see if it's safe to go into him. Yes, it is. This is why I like doctors' diagnosis. That's why they have these hundreds of $1,000s worth of equipment for us to find the exact cause of things. It really speeds up our ability to go directly to the cause without having to diagnose it. Because by law, we're not allowed to diagnose anything anyway. We can just pray to fix things. So let's tune into Douglas Dietrich the Fourth. This is interesting. I feel like an oppressive force, just like a ball of energy sitting there in his heart. It extends on up into the energy of it comes up into his throat. He has a field there that could be causing heart pain or weakening the heart or destructing the heart. It's interesting. I've been working with some of these lately with my students and clients. what's coming to mind is a force field that is implanted primarily through the Catholic Church. This is a feeling of martyrdom that people get in their heart center. There's a point that literally blocks their self-healing or their self-worth, and it's okay to suffer and all kinds of stuff that comes with being a martyr. And as soon as we identify that, we go to the church and say, you have no right to impose this on this person. Pull your energy back now. Also clear the negative self-worth in this person's throat. That is helping to destruct his heart center through lack of love. Pull this out, lack of self-love, release. Clear his throat. Back in time, patterns of negative self-worth, clear and release. Clear the heart of that destructive field that tries to convince people it's better to die if you die for the love of God than to live for the glory of God. Release. It's wonderful. I feel it releasing. Through the power of the Christ within us, we see Douglas's heart in the perfect and normal condition. And we clear the emotional cause back in time and space. This is the advantage of working in the fourth dimensional reality, is that we can move backward and forward in time and space with no limitation. All right, we're wrapping a field of energy around his heart and his throat chakra. And we're bringing in a flow of self-love.
He's reporting that he's feeling warmer.
Okay, and so it is. Okay, Susan, for Evelyn from Nova Scotia, please release her addiction to food, alcohol, and aspartame. Especially from her parents' heredity. Well, in this sentence, you defined everything that's wrong with her. Release her addictions to food, alcohol, and aspartame. That comes from self-nourishment, trying to find self-love, over in indulging, which becomes through the low self, that addictive thing, because low self loves addictions and excesses of anything that serves it, either emotionally or with nutrients. Also, that we're asked to release her issues to poor mentality, not feeling loved, worthy, or even having enough money coming in every month to handle her bills. It all centers around this one thing of lack of self-worth and programming. If we knew more about her, we could pinpoint more things. But really what it comes down to is a need for self-realization that all this stuff that she sees as being exterior herself and it's affecting her literally is because she's accepted it into her system and was programmed there before she had the right of free will to resist it. And so if there's any way of communicating with Evelyn, the best thing we can do for her is open her up to the flow of unconditional love coming from the Galactic Center and make her have helping her to the self-realization. Let's pour into her 0 point. Self-love. Boy, this is fascinating. It won't even accept it. All right, we'll have to approach this from a different way. I'm going to talk to Evelyn's high self. Evelyn's high self. Evelyn's low self, you have the power to manifest anything into the reality of this person. So we are interceding into the 0 point where we are directing a point of self-worth and self-love and sending this resonating back into standing waves of time through her life, her entire life, back into the genetics of her parents, releasing any programs of lack of self-worth or anything that turns her attention outward as being the cause of her problems, when really the problems are all with her own self-worth and her utilizing her personal power and will to, because like attracts like, and so what she was inherited and grew up with just constantly keeps recreating that foundation that she knows is life. So we clear and release that foundation from her system and give her the opportunity through free choice to utilize her will, bring in the light of higher consciousness, to resonate with the physical reality of lower consciousness, the male and female polarity to manifest the opportunity for a new life, new choices, new self-awareness and self-realization that she has the power and has always had the power to change her life simply by changing each moment of choice to choose to express in a positive manner or being subjected to that has been patterned and programmed for her. So we still in Evelyn, the self-realization she is the power, that everything that exists in her system and in her reality is because she allows it to be there. Through the power of the Christ within us, we see Evelyn in a new reality, expressing life fully to the highest of her desire and ability. And you resonate this out through the healing world to everyone else out there that's listening, that's suffering from any of the destructive forces of negative self-awareness or lack of self-worth. Feel the flow of energy come into you now, bringing into yourselves the personal determination to create your reality instead of being subjective to it. Now I feel a tremendous force resonating out through the listening audience and around the world, that this is really the foundation that we're speaking of here, of the new paradigm, the new world, the new reality of dominion. And this is helping to make the shift that we discussed in the first hour. Create your reality instead of being subjected to it. It's all free choice. And it is really quite simple to do. Whoa, that turned out to be a pretty good one, guys. Thank you. I hope you all felt that the same way I did.
Well, this is what you were saying, is that, well, oh gosh, now it is far too late. That's the end of the program. Sorry about that. Eva's probably already on. Is she on? Yeah, there's Eva. Okay, I better stop the show and get going. So, thank you very much, everybody. Sorry to be so abrupt, but we just ran out of time. Eyes closed with you. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, JP.
Bye.